items, the first of which is an adoption of an ordinance approving the petition to vacate city right-of-way, the southern portion of unopened Bay Street. Clerk Wallace? Clerk
Yes.
Wallace.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. So earlier this evening, a public hearing was held to take testimony on whether the City Council should vacate approximately 200 square feet of city right-of-way, which is the southern portion of the opened Bay Street adjacent to 1819 Bay Street. Staff has determined the following with regards to the proposed street vacation. The area sought to be vacated was platted on June 3rd, 1890, and annexed into the city by the adoption of ordinance number 714 on March 25th, 1963. The city engineer has reviewed the street vacation petition and has indicated that the area sought to be vacated is not needed for any public travel now or in the foreseeable future. The functionality of the area sought to be vacated for public purposes is non-existent. The vacation of the area would not adversely affect any city utilities such as water, sewer, or storm. And the city has not included any projects within the proposed vacation area as part of its 6-year road plan, nor has the city any scheduled capital facility projects on this property. The community development director stated the following, that the vacation of the proposed area does not create potential or actual land use uses that are inconsistent with the city growth plans and goals. And then the area has not been identified in the city's comprehensive plan. Staff has determined that the area proposed for the vacation has not been vacated by lapse of time under the non-user statute. Therefore, under Port Orchard Municipal Code, Chapter 12.08.050(1), subsection B, states that if the street has been part of the dedicated right-of-way for more than 25 years of its subject property to be vacated was acquired at the public expense, that the city may require owners of the property abutting the street to compensate the city in an amount that does not exceed the full appraisal value of the vacated area. The city obtained an appraisal of the right-of-way and the fair market value has been determined to be $9,500. The petitioner is asking the city council to reconsider the sales price of this right-of-way from $9,500 down to $6,000, as that was the value of the right-of-way when agreed to purchase in July of 2018. In addition, she is asking that the city waive the appraisal fee associated with determining the value of that right-of-way. She states that there was confusion on whether she should get her own appraisal or if the city was required to. And the cost to attain that appraisal was $3,000 plus an additional $900 for review. The petitioner stated that could she have received the appraisal on her own, it would have cost her approximately $800. I'm not sure if the legal counsel has any additional comments to provide to the council before a motion is made, but I will ask her if she has any additional comments. If not, then staff recommends the council to adopt the ordinance vacating 200 square feet of the city right-of-way, the southern portion of the open Bay Street, and then determine whether the appraisal fee and or the review fee will be waived or discounted, and what the approximate value you are asking her to compensate the city in.
Council members, is there a motion or is there a comment by the attorney or not?
One quick comment. The ordinance as drafted does not waive either reduce the appraised rate or waive the fee. And so a motion, if the council were to be inclined to do either of those, would need to include the stated amount of compensation sought in section 8 of the ordinance. And then an amendment would need to be made to add a section that says, and the council agrees to waive the appraisal and review fee or something to that effect if the council so chose to do so.
Okay. Is there a motion? Councilmember Clausen.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt an ordinance vacating 200 square feet of city right-of-way, the southern portion of the open Bay Street as presented, and adjusting section 8, the appraisal price or the vacation price would be the $9,500, and that the ordinance would also add a section that would waive the appraisal fees as requested.
And the review fee also?
And the review fee as requested, yes.
Okay, there's a motion.
Second.
I think that was Councilmember Rosa Pepe. So I have a motion by Councilmember Clausen, second by Councilmember Rosa Pepe, and I see Councilmember Cacciardi has his hand raised.
Yeah, would the motion maker just, your first part about the valuation, the 9,500, I missed that, John. Could you explain what your motion addressed on that point?
Essentially, Section 8 would include the 9,500 appraised value as the price for the right of way. And then adding a section that would delete both the appraisal fee and the review fee.
Great. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion on the table is to sell for the appraised value and waive the appraisal fee and the review fee.
Correct.
Further comments or questions? Councilmember Diener, go ahead. You're muted, sir.
Sorry about that. Just wanted to know for the record that the waivers that we've talked about here are consistent with past actions as well.
Other comments or questions? Hearing none, you'll be voting on the acceptance, the adoption of an ordinance approving the petition to vacate city right-of-way at the southern portion of unopened Bay Street for $9,500 and to waive the appraisal fee and the appraisal review fee. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the ordinance has been approved.
Just for clarification, Mr. Mayor, you said unopened portion of Bay Street. It's actually read as opened portion.
Okay, the agenda says it's unopened, so it's Bay Street. We'll settle on Bay Street. I think we know which piece of property we're talking about. We're to item B now, approval of the 2022 comprehensive plan docket. And Jim Fisk is filling in for Nick Mon this evening.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor. The next item is comprehensive plan amendments, the annual comp plan amendments. We have a light list of comp plan amendments this year. We're moving forward with 3 comp plan amendments, all of them initiated by the city. We generally update our 6-year and 20-year transportation improvement program as part of the comprehensive plan amendment process. We typically take the current year off the list and add a year to the end of the plan, shifting projects around to leverage funding opportunities and in a manner consistent with City Council's priorities. We're working on the finishing touches on the 6-year and 20-year TIP. We also recently completed the Parks Plan with our consultants. The plan wasn't ready to be included in the 2021 comp plan amendments, but since adoption, we are asking that the Parks Plan be adopted by reference in the comprehensive plan as part of this year's amendment process. It is important to note that upon inclusion into the comprehensive plan, we can adjust our park impact fees consistent with the study undertaken as part of the creation of the Parks Plan. The city received approval of the water systems plan by the Department of Health. We intend to adopt the water system plan into the comp plan by reference because the water system plan demonstrates that we're planning for the correct amount of growth. This summarizes our near-term comprehensive plan workload for this year's comp plan amendment process. We anticipate the Planning Commission hearing at the May Planning Commission meeting. Once we receive the Planning Commission's recommendation, we would like to have the comp plan amendments before the City Council, possibly by the end of May or the beginning of June for action. Staff recommends approval of the 2020 comprehensive plan amendment docket as presented.
Councilmember Diener.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the 2022 comprehensive plan amendment agenda pursuant to Port Orchard Municipal Code 20.04.060 as presented.
Second.
Lots of seconds. So Councilmember Diener made the main motion, and I believe I heard a second by Councilmember Shang. Any questions on Councilmember Diener? You've got your hand raised. Go ahead.
I just wanted to also note for the record that the capital facilities element, the transportation improvement program, the parks element have been discussed in a number of committee meetings as well, including land use and transportation, and I believe also economic development and finance. So it's been well discussed.
Yes. Councilmember Rosapepe.
Besides being well discussed, as Councilmember Diener said, also thank you to all the staff, including DCD, for their work on this and their presentations to the various committees.
Yes.
Yeah.
Other comments or questions? Can't let Mr. Fisk off this easy. It's his first time at a council meeting. We need to grill him.
I've been here before, but I appreciate you guys.
All right. We have a motion to approve the 2022 comprehensive plan docket. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the docket has been set. Thank you for Mr. Fisk for joining us. You're welcome to stick around, but you're also welcome to go about your evening. All right, we're to item C, approval of amendment number 1 to contract number 001-22 with Murray Smith Inc. for the 2022 on-call modeling update services. Mr. Dorsey.
Thank you, Your Honor, council members. Due to the limitations of in-house staff, the city utilizes the services of a qualified engineering firm to perform on-call or modeling services for the city's water systems and associated projects, and solicits for qualified firms on a regular basis to ensure a competitive rate for these services. Following a full procurement process on January 11th, 2022, the city Port Orchard City Council approved contract number C001-22 with the selected qualified consultant Murray Smith Inc. for the 2022 on-call modeling update services for the city's water systems. Additional projects that require funding that exceed the original contract rate is anticipated for 2022 on-call services. Accordingly, this proposed amendment will increase the total cost of contract number C001-22 by $100,000. Staff recommends that the City Council authorize the mayor to execute amendment number 1 to contract number C001-22 with Murray Smith Inc. for the 2022 on-call modeling update services for the city's water systems, thereby increasing the budget authority in the amount of $100,000 for a total amended contract amount of $180,000.
Councilmember Lucarelli.
I move to authorize the mayor to execute amendment number 1 to contract number C001-22 with Murray Smith Inc. for 2022 on-call modeling update services for the city's water systems, thereby increasing the budget authority in the amount of $100,000 for a total amended contract amount of $180,000.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lucarelli, a second by Councilmember Clausen. Do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Dorsey? Councilmember Clausen.
Yes, I guess just from a budgeting standpoint, we approved an $80,000 budget a few days short of 2 months ago. And now we're being asked to more than double what was in the original budget. Obviously something changed that now we need to add another 100,000 to the budget.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to explain this is in golf terms. I think we call this a mulligan. And basically we had 2 very large on-call tasks that were not anticipated, and that we've actually already we have one that we've issued. We haven't issued the other one until this action tonight, that just weren't anticipated when we budget $80,000 a year annually for our on-call, and then we have our concurrency contract, which is just a pass-through. So we had some unknown tasks that have eaten up the budget. So this is basically funding these 2 tasks through the on-call and then starting over. That's the best way I can explain it.
So obviously,
so basically funding what we've already used up, but now we're just resetting the numbers so that we're prepared for something new to come about.
We're setting ourselves up for the entire year now. That's why I call it a mulligan. So, and we may not spend it, but yeah, we spend our money too fast.
too much going on. So, and obviously
My
this,
only question is, there's a significant change in less than 2 months to more than double what the budget was. So that's all. I was just wondering, did something come up we weren't expecting, or I'm not a golfer, Mark, so you're going to have to use a different analogy.
so Mark, what were those 2 significant tasks?
One was the review of the 660, the engineering review of the 660 reservoir. And the other one was the modeling update due to the information that wasn't in the water system plan for that because it was Foster related. We didn't have information when we finished the water system plan that we're having to go back and now, because remember that when we adopted the water system plan, it was only good for 2023 in the McCormick system and 2029 in the downtown system. And so those two tasks have pretty much, I guess they're both very important. And so we've just used our on-call budget authority already, and we have the whole year ahead of us. So we will be bringing the water system plan back to amend the update or update the amendment.
Thank you.
Councilmember Cacciardi.
And just to be clear on what John just said, I don't know that this is setting us up for the rest of the year, because it sounds like this particular additional $100,000 is specific to this contract. So there could be additional things that arise in 2022 that we would have to revisit this particular, I guess, line item, so to speak.
No, the one task order that's already been issued, I think is for 60,000, and the second task order uses the remaining 20 or 30 that's there plus some. And so we're just using the 100,000 as just a start over number, just because things are so, when we established the 80,000 in the past, it's always just been a number. It's looking at actuals, but things are getting so busy that we're just being conservative and saying, look, so that we don't have to come back to council, because we don't spend this unless we issue the task orders. We're just saying we want to clean this up. And I would say in the 2023, 2024 budget, we'll probably start at this higher $100,000 level. But really all we're doing is starting over for the two tasks, the one that we've assigned and the one that we're waiting to assign. And then it gives us, funding that we don't have, because we don't want to come back to council and say, hey, we need to top it up again.
So is it phrased right, Mark, when we say it increases the total cost of the contract, or should it say, again, I think the semantics here is important, or the potential cost of contract? Because it almost looks like we're obligating these funds today based on what's already occurred.
Well, again, remember, this has to do with budget authority, but the budget authority is tied to a contract that's been issued to Murray Smith, where they had a $80,000 limit based on task orders being issued. And so we're basically restarting the clock, as it were, with their contract, so that they can be issued task orders up to a maximum for the rest of the year of $100,000. So it is an amendment taking the original 80, because again, we start with their original contract. It's an amendment to add another $100,000 because they've already expended or will have expended the 80.
But your point is well taken, Councilmember Cacciardi. This is an on-call, so they're drawing from the total value throughout the year. So you're obligating the full 180 for on-call services. Right. And staff does their best to prospectively look and see which projects will use up that funding. And in this case, prospectively, we were short-sighted, and now we're having to ask for more to get us through the rest of the year just for on-call services. So there may be a host of other public works water system projects that are not on-call services that you would see elsewhere through other contracts.
Yeah, I would just make a recommendation, Mark. If this comes up again, let's try to get this in front of Finance Committee, so we kind of have the Q&A back and forward, where the committee can come forward to the full council and maybe abbreviate some of these questions, so we're not kind of maybe debating it like we are tonight. I think that could be healthy, just to run it through the Finance Committee, because it's fairly significant.
Yeah, I thought Noah had, I think we brought this to Utility Committee. I could be wrong. So anyway, my apologies.
I think the other thing that I would point out is you talk about semantics, Sean, and it says that thereby increasing the budget authority in the amount of 100,000 for a total amended contract amount of 180. So all we're doing is we're allocating monies for Mark to be able to spend on specific tasks as he believes they're needed. So We're not necessarily committing ourselves to giving this contractor another 100,000 if we don't use it.
Yes, these are task order issued.
Yes.
And if we do spend this much, obviously NOAA will need to do a budget amendment at some point this year. True this up. So
That's what the information indicates, is that it's going to require a budget amendment. That's going to get up.
Councilmember Trenary, I saw your hand raised. Did your question get answered?
Yeah, Councilman Clausen pretty much stated what I was looking to get as far as an answer. I do want to just clarify though, is this a not to exceed type of an amendment?
Yeah, we've dropped that language in general, but it is, if you go to the actual contract itself, section 3, it is time and materials not to exceed. Last year, we dropped the not to exceed language in staff reports in motions.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions, Mr. Dorsey? Hearing none, you'll be voting on the approval of amendment number 1 to contract number 1-22 with Murray Smith Inc. for the 2022 on-call modeling update services. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, the contract has approval. The amendment has been approved. All right, we're on to item D now, approval of the February 15th City Council work study minutes. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Mayor, I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Rosa Pepe, second by Councilmember Clausen. I believe I'll have an abstention by Councilmember Clausen. It was second was by,
I did not second the motion.
yeah, it was Kachardi. I got my C's mixed up. All right.
And yes, I will be abstaining.
And you will be abstaining. Yes, that's what I was thinking ahead. And so Councilmember Kachardi seconded and Councilmember Clausen will be abstaining. All right. Any questions or amendments to those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstention from Councilmember Clausen.
Aye.
All right, we're to item E now, approval of the February 22nd council meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Mayor, this one I can move to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of February 22nd.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Clausen, second by Councilmember Lucarelli, and I believe I'll have two abstentions from Councilmember Kachardi and Councilmember Diener. So are there any amendments, corrections, or questions about the February 22nd meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the February 22nd meeting minutes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And two abstentions?
Abstain.
Abstention.
All right. All right. Our standing item is Veterans Park. I think Charlie and she's got some pictures if you'd like to see them, but there was a significant cleanup effort by volunteers over the weekend and the last couple of days by a contract company. It looks significantly better. I hope it stays that way. And I know we're all very concerned about the RV that continues to sit on the it's not a piece of right of way, but the driveway, former entrance there to the park off of Mile Hill Drive. And I have had some very direct conversation with a couple of county commissioners about that. And they heard me. I hope we can get some action on that particular issue. But Charlie, if you want to, Brandy, can you allow Charlie to share?
I can share.
Yes, she should be able to.
Okay. Just
So these are photos taken today by the code enforcement officer. As the mayor mentioned, there was a substantial cleanup effort over the weekend and then early this week by contractors plus Northwest Hospitality. So the photos that you see indicate the level of cleanup that has occurred. Normally in these areas that you'd observe, there would be large piles of trash on the ground. You see the signs in the photo on the right, and those are the signs that encourage occupants of the park to sort their trash into piles on the ground. So while there was a substantial cleanup effort and garbage was removed from the park in substantial quantities, the garbage cans were immediately locked, and the problem's likelihood of recurrence, as we can see in the photo, has been immediately triggered. So garbage has already begun accumulating on the ground outside the locked dumpster. Again, the narrative we've received from the county is that their waste management vendor or their disposal company requires that they sort before they can take the materials off site. We have heard to the contrary from vendors that the city has engaged with to do similar cleanups elsewhere in the city, that sorting can occur off site and that vendors can collect the trash in real time. So we continue to work with the county with regards to trash maintenance while the park continues to be occupied. And the county has indicated that they are committed to removing the trash from the ground, but we haven't yet seen evidence of that. Here are some additional photos the code enforcement officer took today. Again, the signs that are still up that say place your trash here. And then as we experienced with the last large cleanup, the dumpsters were not removed immediately. So they still sit as of 9:20 this morning, full of garbage from the cleanup. And time will tell if the garbage is then removed from the dumpster and redistributed in the park, as was the case in the past. So portable toilets again, one additional portable toilet has been moved to the south end, likely responsive to the large growth of population at the south end. Both are affixed. One is affixed to a wooden post. One is, however, affixed to the power line or to whatever sort of supporting line this is for the power line. So we'll be working with this is a brand new occurrence today. This wasn't there yesterday. So we will be working with the county to redress that concern. And then these photos show that the trash has been cleaned up in this area, but immediately a dresser has been dumped, and immediately the encampment expanded. The encampment surrounding the RV has expanded. I think the next photos show it more clearly. Well, these show you the ever expanding footprint of the RV's occupants. And there's indications that the RV is not operable at this point. But this shows you that the RV has actually expanded into the woods. So photos from just yesterday, this entire area depicted in the photo on the left was clear. There was no trash, save the bicycle and the tent that you see in the right, which you can't see necessarily the topography, but that is in a very distinct area from this encampment that was placed here overnight. So this was not there yesterday, and now it is there. As far as the RV is concerned, you can see evidence related to the RV's expansion. City staff have done extensive outreach to the RV's occupants. The police department, the deputy chief, the navigator, and the code enforcement officer have all spoken with the RV's occupants multiple times and have done everything that they can do as far as offering services. I believe the deputy chief even offered gas or gave them gas. Because at one point they indicated that gas is what they needed to move along. But they are not moving, and the substantial public health and safety challenges posed by their presence on this property are continuing to go unremediated. So this is a pressure point that we absolutely are going to continue to work with the county on. As we've discussed before, the county has cited to the Long decision, Long versus Seattle, and to the Boise decision as a reason for taking a very slow approach. However, under those legal precedents, at this point, given the number of violations, including an illicit discharge violation that we cited and sent to the county, there is a valid basis to remove the RV and store it off-site. Whether the county is going to commit to that, we should know more by the end of this week. And additional photos of the RV and the adjacent encampment. Furniture being dumped near the encampment. And I'll end on a positive note. It looks like from one day to the next, trash was removed. So you'll see the photo on the left was from yesterday and the photo on the right was from today. And these are similar areas. And this is another point the code enforcement officer just wanted me to flag. There is county-owned property at the north end of the park where an RV is living in the right-of-way. For members of the public, this street is county property, and we do not, unlike the park that's located within the city limits, we do not have the same powers to utilize code enforcement methods to try to gain compliance. So, the code enforcement officer wanted me to flag this for members of the council who may be very aware of this individual living, both, I guess now there's two individuals, one living in the van and one living in the RV. But there has been observed traffic from the RVs into the park and vice versa. So there is a nexus with the park. And so our goal is to encourage the county to take action as to this RV in conjunction with the park, but we can't use the same code enforcement tools.
This is a section of county road on the north end of the park.
Correct. Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay, questions? Okay, so lots of good progress, but more to do. And we're continuing to work it. And Katie's doing phenomenal work, our code enforcement officer. Councilmember Tenary?
I do have a question on Charlie, on that last picture, that last county road. Are those homes that are on the, well, I don't know, I imagine that would be the west side of that road. Are those
north,
homes in the city?
To the north.
Are those homes in the city or are they in the county?
County.
They're in the county, correct.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Parks to the south and those homes are to the north. That road runs east-west.
Yes, here, I'll show you. It's the RV is parked right here at this dead end street. Oh, my computer's. So this is a dead end street and he's living here. And so, yes, these are all county homes in the county.
Have you heard from any of those homes?
I believe, yes. I believe they've also submitted requests to the county, which has then been reverted to us, even though it's county property. So jurisdiction over that stretch of road is unclear as far as who's taking ownership, but I think everybody is hearing from homeowners about that.
It's a county road.
It's a county, it's absolutely a county road.
Yeah, it's county road.
The confusion is on the county side. No.
Yep. Yes. Okay. Ready to move on to council committee reports? Okay. Economic development tourism. Looks like you're meeting Monday, March 14th is your next meeting. I believe you've given a report previously. Utilities is not meeting this month. That would have met tonight and it was canceled. Next meeting is April 12th. Finance is next week on Wednesday. I don't believe that's going to work. We probably need to move that meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to point that out. I'm unfortunately going to be out of town on business that day. So I'm going to not be able to have the finance committee that day, nor will I be attending the work study that evening.
Yep.
Yep. I'll work with Noah to see if one, is it needed? And two, if it is, then maybe we can find a date that we can reschedule it for.
I'll touch base with them in the morning, John, and get back to you.
All right. Thank you.
You bet. Transportation Committee meets on March 22nd, and I believe they get a report at our last council meeting. Chimes and Lights, do you have a report?
No, we meet next week. Thank you.
Perfect. March 21st. I see that. Land use is also next week, March 16th. And lodging tax. Is there anything to report? I see a meeting on March 9th.
We meet tomorrow morning, Mayor. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m.
Perfect. Good to
Mr.
hear.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I have not reported on the February 16th unless it was reported at the last meeting.
It was.
It was. Okay. All right. Thank you to whoever did that.
Sewer advisory. Next meeting is May 18th. Do you have anything to report from your last meeting? No? Okay.
We already did.
All right. And the council retreat is this Friday, 9 a.m. to 3. I hope to get you out at 3. We got a lot to talk about, but that's our goal, is to get done by 3 o'clock. and we might have to have a working lunch, but we'll see how the day goes along. Mayor's report, first with my, if you haven't seen it, the fireworks survey went up last Friday. We already had, over the weekend, we already had 100 people take that survey. So I'm very excited about the level of participation. We're going to run that at least till the end of the month. And we have our first public hearing on that in 2 weeks. And then a second one planned the first meeting in April to talk about that. So the Community Event Center, you know, we've got that fabulous message of community that turns into unity on the one end. I'd like the public to help us with the message on the other end. And so we're going to launch a survey this Friday that'll run the remainder of the month and possibly into April to try to get the community to give us their ideas on what the message should be on the other end of the building. Let's see here, the work study next week. Due to really a lack of items, we're going to cancel the work study next week and not have one. So give everybody gets a night off, and we'll look to cancel that finance committee or move that finance committee meeting or cancel it also. And then lastly, personnel updates. The HR manager is working to update at least two job descriptions a month. She worked on the finance director's job description here recently, and I reviewed it, and I'm just reporting out. And it was just really updating the terminology from treasurer and such things that are outdated, and his job responsibilities with the transportation benefit district and other things that since it was last updated. So I appreciate Debbie's efforts on that front. So that is all I have to report this evening. And department heads, Mr. Dorsey, do you have anything to share?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Mr. Fisk, I see you didn't go anywhere. I'll call on you. Do you have any thing to share from the planning department?
I have nothing to share.
All right.
Very enlightening.
Okay. Miss Archer, I know you're going on vacation. Do you have any words of wisdom for us before you leave town?
Some great legislation passed last week. I'm sure the chief will touch on that in his report. But yeah, nothing specific. While I am out, Jennifer Robertson is available for any council questions. Feel free to reach out to her. Appreciate it. Great.
We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Clerk Wallace.
Yes, I have two things. So it is the season where I am receiving special event applications. So those are being processed and routed to the departments. There are a couple street closures, so you will see them before you here in the next couple meetings for consideration and approval. And then the other one is, if you haven't already noticed, some of the council members have experienced this, but we are taking advantage of technology and we are going to digital signatures. Some of you have already given us your electronic signatures, but we are now utilizing DocuSign for signing our ordinance minutes, resolutions, contracts. So we're getting there in the technology sense of things. So that's all I have to report.
It's been fabulous to use that. And Chief, why don't you tell us about some of the things the governor's signed?
Yeah, so we had at least 3 bills. We're still waiting to hear on one of the other ones that were all signed by the governor last week and then early this week under the emergency clause. They went into effect immediately, but we are sorting that out. But it did allow us to drift a little bit closer back to the center in terms of how officers are able to use force, when officers are able to use force to help protect community members and take suspects into custody. There have been some clarity on the less lethal tools that we're able to use. So we are able to bring back some of the 40mm tools that we had purchased prior to the legislation last year. Those are designed to allow us to use some force options at a distance to de-escalate prior to having to use deadly force. So we've been working with Ms. Archer, hopefully before she leaves for her well-deserved and extended vacation, to make sure that we're on the right track for that. I can also say it's another good week for us. We were able to provide a couple of awards. Officer of the Year went to Steve Morrison. As his peers described him, he was the one that pulled the plow for us last year and really came through, helped us get through a difficult year. And Heather Humphrey, who, if you ever come down and go to the front desk, she's working at our front desk as a records and evidence specialist. She really did a lot of fantastic work on the administrative side of the house, getting us through accreditation. So the two of them were provided those awards this year. And we're just continuing to chug along. So hopefully at the next meeting, I'll be able to provide a little bit more clarity on the new legislation and how that affects the police department.
Thanks, Chief. All right. Is there anything, let's see here. I think we'll go to the next citizen comment period. I see one member of the public still out there. So if you're wishing to address the council, I see you're on a phone. How did Jeannie or Brandy? What's the feature to raise your hand on a phone? I know
Is *9.
*9. So you'd use *9 if you wish to address the council, and we would bring you into the meeting. Last chance to address the council in our second citizen comment period. You would use *9 to raise your hand. Not seeing a hand raised, so I am going to close the second citizen comment period, and we're going to go to good of the order. Is there anything for the good of the order this evening? Councilmember Rosepepe, go ahead.
Yeah, I know we talk a lot about, and I'm not sure this is totally appropriate, Mayor, so feel free to shut me down. But, you know, we look at our own area and our own state, and it's hard not to see what's going on in the world today, that we're going to be impacted inflation-wise and personal-wise for a while with what's going on in Ukraine. And I just wanted to say that from that standpoint, there's not a lot we can do except send positive thoughts and hopes for people in a democratic world to keep fighting and keep moving on and go from there. I know we're all going to be impacted, but hopefully we can get through this all together and Ukraine can survive.
Yeah. Thank you for those remarks. Anything else for the good of the order this evening? So hearing none, I am going to adjourn this meeting, and we'll see you all Friday at our retreat in the council chambers.
See you, everybody. Good
Everybody.
night.
See you later.
Bye.